"Oh, sorry, I accidentally backed into your $78,000 Ford Raptor," my brother said, after I refused to sign over Dad's lake cabin. Mom added, "Don't be dramatic." He was upset. I did not yell. That night, I updated the insurance file and removed his name from the garage access. But at 7:18 a.m., he woke up to something he never expected. The tailgate was caved in 4 inches. Both taillights shattered. The bumper was folded under the bed at an angle that meant the frame rail behind it was bent, which meant the repair was not a bumper replacement. It was structural. The Ford Raptor was race red, 3 months old, 62 payments left on the note. It was parked in its bay in my 3-car garage on Lakeview Drive, where it had been parked since 9 a.m. when Bertie and I came home from her Saturday morning swim lesson. Nobody had been in the garage since. Nobody was supposed to be in the garage since. The keypad code had been changed in October after the locks were rekeyed. Except the old code still worked on the side door. The side door that Declan had used 47 times in 14 months without telling me. His truck was still in my driveway, a white F-150 with the Northland Chevrolet dealer plates he gets from the lot. Engine off, door open. He was standing on the concrete with his hands in his jacket pockets and the expression of a man who has practiced a sentence in the rearview mirror and is ready to deliver it. "Oh, sorry, I accidentally backed into your Raptor." Bertie was behind me in the mudroom doorway. She was 10 years old. She had her swim bag over one shoulder and her hair was still damp. She looked at the Raptor. She looked at Declan. She looked at me. "Mom, Uncle Declan hit your truck. I see that." Declan took one hand out of his pocket and held it up the way men hold up one hand when they want the gesture to do the work of an apology without the mouth having to form the actual words. "It was an accident, Maeve. I was turning around. The driveway is narrow. The driveway is 22 feet wide. His truck is 6 feet 8 inches. The Raptor was inside the garage with the door closed. To hit it, Declan would have had to open the side door with the old code, open the garage bay from the interior panel, back his truck up to within 3 feet of the Raptor's tailgate, and reverse into it. The driveway is not narrow. The damage was not an accident. The damage was a sentence my brother chose to write on my truck because I had refused, 4 hours earlier at my mother's kitchen table, to sign a quitclaim deed transferring Dad's lake cabin to a family trust controlled by Rita. I did not yell. Bertie was behind me. The swim bag was on her shoulder. The garage smelled like gasoline and cold concrete and the metallic bite of broken taillight plastic. "Declan, get off my property. Maeve, come on. I said I was sorry. Get off my property." He got in his truck. He left. The F-150's tires made the sound tires make on cold March concrete when a man is driving away from something he knows will cost more than he can pay. The driveway was quiet. Bertie had not moved. "Mom, are you going to call the police?" "Not yet, baby. Go inside. Start your homework. I need to look at the truck." She went inside, the mudroom door closed behind her. The garage was cold and bright, and the Raptor's tailgate had a 4-inch depression that ran the width of the panel. The right side was worse than the left. 2 separate impacts, 2 distinct dent patterns. He had hit it, backed up, hit it again. My mother Rita called 17 minutes later. Her voice had the specific cadence it gets when she has already decided what the conversation will conclude and is working backward from the conclusion to the opening. "Maeve, I heard about the truck. Declan is very sorry. He was upset about the cabin. You know how he gets. He has been under a lot of pressure at the dealership. Please do not make this bigger than it is." "Mom, he hit my truck twice. You do not know that. The dent pattern shows 2 impacts. The first is shallow. The second is 4 inches deep. He reversed, pulled forward, and reversed again. You are not a mechanic. No, I am an architect. I read structural damage for a living. The bumper is folded under the bed rail. The frame rail behind it is compromised. That is a $20,000 to $25,000 repair on a truck I have owned for 3 months. Don't be dramatic, Maeve. He was upset. You pushed him at the table this morning. You sat there and told him no to his face. You humiliated him. What did you expect? I expected him to not destroy my truck, Mom. You expected too much. You have always expected too much from this family. Your father spoiled you with that cabin, and you have been holding it over Declan's head for 3 years. Sign the deed. Split it. Let the family move forward. The family can move forward without my cabin. Rita hung up. The phone went face down on the workbench in the garage. The Raptor's shattered taillight was on the concrete in 2 pieces. A piece of red plastic the size of a playing card sat near the rear tire. The cold air from the open bay smelled like the lake, which was 400 yards down the hill and still half frozen in late March. That night, after Bertie was asleep, 2 things happened at my kitchen table. First, the insurance file. The Raptor was insured through State Farm. The garage had a separate rider on the homeowner's policy. Declan's name was not on the insurance, but his name had been on the garage access list since October of the previous year, when I had given him the side door code for 1 weekend to store a trailer during a fishing tournament. 1 weekend. 14 months ago. The code had never been changed because I had trusted that 1 weekend meant 1 weekend. The access list updated. Declan's name removed. Code changed. Second, the security camera. My garage has a Wise cam mounted on the interior ceiling beam, pointed at the bay doors. The camera records to a cloud backup. It had recorded Declan entering the garage at 2:47 p.m. that afternoon. He pulled his F-150 in through the bay he had opened from the side door panel. He sat in the truck for 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Then he put the truck in reverse. He hit the Raptor's tailgate at 2:51 p.m. He stopped. He put the truck in drive. He pulled forward 4 feet. He put it in reverse again. He hit the Raptor at 2:52 p.m. Harder, the tailgate folded. He pulled forward. He got out of the truck. He looked at the damage. He took a photograph with his phone. Then he walked to the side door and left through it. He had photographed the damage before he came to the front of the house and told me it was an accident. I almost called the police right then. The footage was on my phone. The 2 impacts were visible. The timestamp was clear. I did not call. Bertie was asleep down the hall, and calling the police at 11 p.m. on a Saturday would mean a squad car in the driveway and a 7-year-old girl explaining to her friends on Monday why the police were at her house. The police could wait until Monday. The footage was in the cloud. The cloud does not forget. If this is the kind of story you came for, subscribe to Family Secret Tales, because the truck was just the surface. The security camera saw the truck, but the access log saw something much worse. 3 things before the log. My name is Maeve, 37 years old. Residential architect. My firm is Aldrich Design on Superior Street in Duluth. 3 employees. I design lakefront homes and seasonal cabins across the North Shore. I have been doing this since I was 25. My father, Henning Aldrich, died 3 years ago on the dock of his cabin on Lake Vermilion. He had a heart attack at approximately 3 a.m. during a night fishing session. The tackle box was beside his chair. The lures were still wet. The thermos was still warm. I found him at 7 a.m. that Saturday morning when I walked down the dock for my own coffee. He was sitting in his camp chair. He looked like he was sleeping. He was not sleeping. The green metal tackle box was open at his feet, with the Swiss Army knife resting on the top tray. Inside the tackle box, underneath the 3rd tray, was a folded piece of paper I did not find until 6 months later when I cleaned and organized the box before my first solo weekend at the cabin. The paper was a note in his handwriting. The lake is yours. Keep it. Your brother wants the shoreline. You want the water. There is a difference. He had written it. He had put it in the tackle box. He had not told me about it. He had trusted that I would find it. The cabin was his. a 2-bedroom fishing shack on a half-acre lot with 40 feet of shoreline and a dock that needed replacing. He left it to me in his will, not to Declan, not to Rita, to me. After he died, I spent 2 years and $340,000 renovating it. New foundation, new roof, expanded to 4 bedrooms, insulated year-round, new dock, new septic, new well. Every improvement is documented in architectural drawings I signed, building permits in my name, contractor invoices I paid to Oscar Thorson, who is my father's oldest friend and the only builder I trusted to touch Dad's cabin. Oscar cried the first day of demolition. He said, "Your father would have hated this and loved it at the same time." He was right. Grandma Aldrich is 87. She lives in assisted living in 2 Harbors. She calls me on the 1st of every month to ask about the cabin. She asks if the dock is holding. She asks if the loons came back. She asks about Bertie. She does not ask about Declan. She has not asked about Declan in 2 years. That is its own kind of answer. My therapist is Dr. Nessa Kwan. 52 years old. Office on East 4th Street above a coffee shop that smells like cardamom. The week after Dad died, I sat in her office and told her I did not deserve the cabin because I had not earned it. Nessa looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "Maeve, your father did not leave you the cabin because you earned it. He left it because you would not sell it." That sentence has been the foundation of every decision I have made about the cabin since. Every contractor invoice, every building permit, every time Rita or Declan asked me to share the property, Nessa's sentence was underneath my answer. He left it because I would not sell it. That is not pity. That is trust. The access log told a story I had not been looking for. The Waze cam stored motion-triggered footage to a cloud backup going back 18 months. Sunday morning, with Bertie at a friend's house, the laptop came open on the kitchen table. The access log showed 47 entries on the side door keypad over 14 months. All by Declan. All using the code I had given him for one October weekend to store a trailer. He had been storing his boat in my third bay. A 1994 Bayliner on a single-axle trailer. The footage showed him towing it in on November 4th of the previous year. It had never left. For 14 months, the boat had been sitting in my garage, taking up a bay I had assumed was empty because I rarely opened that bay door. The boat's fuel line had a slow drip. Diesel had been leaking onto the concrete pad for 14 months. The stain was visible in the footage. The remediation estimate from a hazmat contractor Oscar connected me to was $8,200, but the boat was not the worst part of the log. On March 3rd, 3 weeks before the Raptor incident, Declan had entered the garage at 11:14 p.m. The footage showed him opening the third bay, backing in his truck, and unloading 4 cardboard boxes. He stacked them behind the bayliner. He left at 11:31 p.m. The boxes had labels. The camera resolution was good enough to read. Northland Chevrolet customer files. My brother had been using my garage as off-site storage for dealership records. Customer social security numbers. Credit applications. Finance contracts. Documents that, under FTC's safeguards rule, are required to be stored in a secure facility with controlled access. My garage is not a secure facility. My garage is a 3-car residential bay with a Wise cam and a code my brother had been using without permission for 14 months. If any of those files were compromised, the liability was on Northland Chevrolet, but the storage address was mine. I closed the laptop. I picked up the tackle box from the shelf above the workbench where it has lived since I brought it home from the cabin 2 years ago. I opened it. I lifted the third tray. Dad's note was underneath it, folded into a square the size of a postage stamp. I did not unfold it. I did not need to read it again. The words were in every room I stood in. The lake is yours. Keep it. I closed the tackle box. I put it back on the shelf. I picked up my phone and called Margaret Lind. Margaret Lind has been the Aldrich family estate attorney for 21 years. She was at her office Monday morning at 8:00. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. 3 things came out of it. First, the insurance address. Margaret's paralegal ran a property address cross-reference as part of the estate review. Declan's homeowner's insurance policy through Farmers listed my address on Lakeview Drive as his secondary residence. This gave him a multi-property discount of $2,100 per year. The policy had listed my address for 3 years. I had never been notified. Declan had never asked. If the Raptor claim went through my State Farm homeowner's rider, both policies would flag the same address and Declan's 3-year Farmers fraud would surface automatically. Second, the cabin renovation credit. Margaret had the estate file open. Inside was a letter from Declan to Margaret, dated 6 months after Dad's death, claiming he had co-invested $120,000 in the cabin renovation and requesting that the estate recognize his contribution. Margaret had asked Declan for receipts. He had never provided them. His total documented contribution was a single check for $500 labeled furniture, which had bounced. $340,000 in renovation costs. Every invoice, every permit, every material receipt was in my name. Declan's contribution was 0. Third, the sealed addendum. Margaret opened a manila folder she had kept in her personal safe for 3 years. Inside was a single sheet of paper clipped to a printed email. The email was from a commercial real estate developer named Cahill Group, addressed to Rita Aldrich, dated 14 months before Henning died. It was a letter of intent to purchase the Lake Vermilion property for $890,000 with an option to develop it into a 4-unit vacation rental. The email was printed from Rita's Gmail account. Henning had found it on Rita's iPad. Henning had brought the printed email to Margaret's office the following week. He had amended his will. The original version split the cabin 50-50 between Maeve and Declan. The amendment gave Maeve 100%. He had told Margaret, "My wife and son are going to sell my lake. My daughter is not. Change the will." Margaret changed it. 4 months later, Henning died on the dock with the tackle box open and the lures still wet. Margaret looked at me across her desk. "Maeve, your mother has been telling your brother for 3 years that your father left you the cabin out of pity. That is not what happened. Your father changed his will because he found a letter of intent to sell the property for $890. 000, and he knew who was behind it. He left you the cabin because you were the only person in his family who wanted to keep it. The note in the tackle box and the amendment were filed the same week. I sat in Margaret's office for another 4 minutes without speaking. The tackle box was in my car in the parking lot. The note was inside it. The same week. The note and the will. I almost asked Margaret if Dad had been angry when he came to the office. I did not ask. It did not matter whether he was angry. What mattered was what he did with the anger, which was folded into a legal document and a piece of paper in a tackle box, and trust that both would be found by the right person at the right time. Dad had not been dramatic. Dad had been precise. If you have made it this far, subscribe to Family Secret Tales. Because at 7:18 the following morning, my brother woke up to the sound of a diesel engine in his driveway that was not his. At 7:18 a.m. Tuesday, Declan's phone rang. Shay answered because Declan was still in bed. The call was from Lakeshore Towing. A tow truck was in the driveway. The driver had paperwork authorizing removal of a 1994 Bayliner, hull number MN4471BV, from storage at a residential property on Lakeview Drive and returned to the registered owner's listed address. The registered owner was Declan Aldrich. The listed address was Declan's house on Ridgemont Court. The boat was in his driveway by 7:44. The trailer axle was rusted. The hull had a diesel stain along the waterline from the 14 months of slow fuel line drip in my garage. Shay stood in the driveway in her robe looking at the boat. Rory and Fen were at the window. At 7:51, a police officer arrived at Declan's door. Not the same officer. A different visit. The officer presented Declan with a copy of the criminal property damage complaint I had filed Monday afternoon at 4:30 p.m., supported by the Wisecam footage showing 2 deliberate impacts on my Ford Raptor. The complaint valued the damage at $24,600, which was the body shop estimate Oscar had coordinated for me through a structural frame specialist in Duluth. Criminal mischief, willful destruction of property over $1,000. Declan signed the acknowledgement. The officer left. At 8:14, a certified letter arrived. Margaret Lynn's office. The letter informed Declan that the Lake Vermilion Cabin Trust had been permanently amended to remove any claim by Declan Aldrich or Rita Aldrich, that the sealed addendum containing the Cahill Group letter of intent had been opened and was now part of the estate record, and that any future attempt to claim co-investment in the cabin renovation would be met with a fraud referral to the St. Louis County DA. 3 things in 96 minutes. The boat, the police, the letter. Declan called me at 8:22 am. His voice was not a shout. It was a whisper. Maeve, there is a tow truck, a police officer, and a letter from Margaret. I did not answer. I listened for 4 seconds. Then I hung up. Sunday afternoon, 6 days after the letter. Rita arrived at my house. She was not alone. Behind her, moving slowly with a walker on the front walk, was Grandma Aldrich. 87 years old. White hair. Blue coat. The walker had tennis balls on the front feet. Rita had one hand on Grandma's shoulder. Grandma was crying, not sobbing. The quiet crying of a woman who has been told something about her granddaughter that she does not want to be true. Rita had told Grandma that Maeve was selling Henning's cabin and keeping the money. Bertie was at the window. Nessa's text from that morning was on my phone. You already know what she is going to try. The question is not what she tries. The question is who you are when she does. The front door opened. The cold March air came in. Rita was smiling the specific smile she wears when she has placed a human being between herself and a consequence and expects the human being to do the work. Maeve, your grandmother wanted to talk to you about Henning's cabin. Grandma looked at me. Her eyes were red. Her hands on the walker were shaking from the cold or from the crying or from both. Grandma, the cabin is not for sale. I am keeping it. Mom told you something that is not true. Grandma looked at me. She looked at Rita. Her hands stopped shaking. Her jaw set the way Henning's jaw used to set, which is to say it set once and it did not move again. Rita, take me home. Rita's hand came off Grandma's shoulder. The smile left. They walked back to the car. Rita helped Grandma into the passenger seat. The walker went in the trunk. The car backed out of the driveway. Grandma called me that evening at 6:47. Her voice was steady. She said, "Your father was right about the lake. He was right about you. Keep it, Maeve, keep every board of it." She hung up. Grandma does not say goodbye on the phone. She says the last important thing and hangs up. She has been doing it for 87 years. I almost drove to Two Harbors that night to sit with her. The keys were on the counter. Bertie was doing homework at the kitchen table. The drive is 90 minutes in good weather, and March weather in Minnesota is not good weather. I put the keys back. We would go Saturday. We would bring the tackle box. Before Grandma's visit, there had been the Sunday afternoon. 3 days after the Raptor. Rita came to Lakeview Drive. She did not come alone. Declan was with her. Shay was in the car with Rory and Fen. 6 of my neighbors were outside because it was one of those late March Sundays when Duluth hits 42 degrees and everyone comes out to their driveway like survivors. 2 of them, the Petersons from across the street, were washing their car. They heard everything. Rita stood on my front walk. Declan stood behind her. Nessa's voice was in my head from Thursday's session, Maeve. She is going to rewrite your father's will with her mouth. Let her finish. then hand her the facts. Nessa was inside my house because she had come for Sunday tea, which is something we started doing 6 months ago when I told her the Sunday afternoons at the cabin made me feel less alone than the Sunday afternoons in Duluth. Rita delivered the speech she had been building since the raptor. Your father left the cabin to you because he felt sorry for you, Maeve. He told me that. He said, she is going to be alone. Give her the lake so she has somewhere to go when nobody wants her. You were not the favorite. You were the charity case. You got the cabin the way shelters get blankets. Because someone felt bad. Declan got the business respect. Declan got the family trust. You got a building on a lake because your father could not figure out what else to do with a daughter who draws houses nobody lives in. The Petersons had stopped washing their car. Mr. Peterson was holding a sponge. Mrs. Peterson had her phone in her hand, not recording, but ready to. Declan was looking at the ground behind Rita the way he always looks at the ground when Rita is speaking for both of them. I did not raise my voice. I stepped off the porch onto the front walk until I was 3 feet from my mother. The tackle box was inside the house on the kitchen counter. The note was inside it. Dad's handwriting. The same week as the will. Dad wrote me a note 2 years before he died. It says, "The lake is yours." The renovation permits are in my name. $340,000. Every blueprint is mine. 25 words. Rita's mouth opened. It did not close for 5 seconds. Her jaw, which had been set the way it sets when she delivers speeches, went soft. Her eyes went to Declan. Declan did not look up from the ground. His hands were in his pockets. His shoulders had come in an inch. He looked smaller standing behind his mother on my front walk than he had ever looked standing behind his desk at the dealership. Rita said, Henning would not have written that. He wrote it. Margaret has the original in the estate file, along with the Cahill Group letter of intent you printed from your Gmail. $890,000. The developer who was going to buy the cabin and turn it into vacation rentals. Dad found it on your iPad. He changed his will the same week. Rita's hand went to her purse strap. She gripped it. Her other hand went to her chest. She stood on my front walk for another 8 seconds without speaking. Then she turned. She walked back to Declan's truck. Declan followed her. He did not say goodbye. He did not say sorry. He opened the passenger door for Rita and closed it and got in the driver's side and started the engine, and the truck left Lakeview Drive at 2:47 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon while the Petersons watched from their driveway with a sponge and a bucket of soapy water and the look of neighbors, who will not bring this up at the block party but will never forget it. The 5 things that happened over the next 3 weeks are things. Declan's farmer's insurance policy was flagged by State Farm's cross-reference during the Raptor claim processing. The dual address fraud surfaced exactly the way Margaret said it would. Farmers opened an investigation. Declan's policy was suspended pending review. His multi-property discount of $2,100 per year for 3 years, totaling $6,300 in fraudulent premium reductions, was added to the investigation file. Declan called Farmers to argue. The adjuster asked him to confirm whether Lakeview Drive was his secondary residence. Declan said yes. The adjuster asked if he had written permission from the property owner to list it. Declan said, "She is my sister." The adjuster said, "That is not permission, Mr. Aldrich." The call ended. The policy remained suspended. Rita's double skim surfaced during the estate accounting Margaret filed with St. Louis County Probate. Declan had been paying Rita $1,600 per month for 2 years for cabin upkeep. Rita had told him the money went to Maeve for cabin taxes and maintenance. Maeve had never received $1 of it. Maeve paid the cabin maintenance directly from her own account, down $200 per year. Rita had kept $38,400 of Declan's money, while both children believed the other was getting the benefit. When Declan saw the accounting, he called Rita. The call lasted 3 minutes. He said, "Mom, where is the $38,000? Rita said that money was for family expenses. Declan said, "Which expenses?" Rita did not answer. Declan hung up. He did not call her again for 19 days. Oscar Thorson, my father's oldest friend and the contractor who had built the cabin renovation, drove to Rita's house on a Saturday morning. He knocked. Rita answered. Oscar is 61 years old, 6'3", Norwegian American, with hands the size of dinner plates from 40 years of framing work. He stood on her porch and he said, "Rita, Henning asked me to build that cabin for Maeve. I have the contract. Maeve has the permits. Declan has nothing. If your son comes near that property again, I will be there, and I will not be there to talk." He turned. He walked to his truck. Rita closed the door. Oscar has not spoken to Rita since. He does not need to. The sentence was the sentence. The family group chat had 31 people in it. Margaret's office released the sealed addendum, including the Cahill Group law, to the family as part of the probate filing. The email from the developer offering $890,000 for the cabin property was visible to every family member on the filing. Rita's Gmail address was at the top. The date was 14 months before Henning's death. 13 people left the chat in the next 4 days. Henning's brother Carl left first. He sent one message before leaving Rita. Henning showed me that email 2 weeks before he changed the will. He told me he could not sleep anymore. I did not say anything because he asked me not to. I should have said something. I am saying it now. Carl left the chat. His wife left 4 minutes later. The Raptor was repaired in 11 days. The frame rail required pulling and re-welding. New tailgate, new taillights, new bumper. Total, $24,600. The bill went to Declan's insurance. Declan's insurance was suspended. The bill went to Declan personally. Declan did not pay it. Margaret filed a civil lien against Declan's assets, the lien attached to his house on Ridgemont Court. Saturday morning. 4 weeks after the Raptor. The cabin on Lake Vermilion. The ice was breaking. Late March on Vermilion means the lake opens in patches, dark water between white plates, and the sound the ice makes when it shifts is the sound of something deciding to let go. Bertie was on the dock in her winter coat with a pair of binoculars Grandma had sent her for her birthday, watching for loons. The loons had not come back yet. They come back in April. Bertie was early. Bertie is always early for things she cares about. Dad's green metal tackle box was on the dock rail. The paint was chipping. The Swiss Army knife with the broken corkscrew was inside it. The note was underneath the third tray. "The lake is yours. Keep it. Your brother wants the shoreline. You want the water. There is a difference." The cabin behind me had 4 bedrooms and a new roof and a foundation I had designed myself and walls I had drawn on paper before they existed in the world. $340,000 in 2 years, and Oscar's hands and my blueprints and my father's name on every decision that led to it. The cabin was not Rita's. It was not Declan's. It was not the Cahill Group's. It was mine, because my father had looked at a developer's letter of intent and had driven to Margaret's office and had changed one number in a will from 50 to 100, because he had known, in the way fathers sometimes know, which child would keep the water and which would sell the shore. Across Duluth on Ridgemont Court. Declan's driveway had a rusted bayliner in it that Shay had asked him to remove 3 times. The boat's fuel line still dripped. The civil lien on the house was attached and accruing. The farmer's investigation was open. The dealership customer files that had been in my garage were now in a rented storage unit that cost $280 a month. And the FTC safeguards audit that Margaret had triggered with a single certified letter was scheduled for April 15th. Rita's house was quiet. The $38,400 was spent. Declan had not called in 19 days. The family chat had 18 people in it. Nobody had spoken since Carl's message. The Cahill Group Lawa was in the probate file. attached to a will amendment that said everything Henning had not been able to say at the dinner table. On the dock, Bertie put the binoculars down. She looked at the water. She looked at me. "Mom, when do the loons come?" "April, maybe late April. Can we come back then? We can come back whenever we want. This is our lake." She picked up the binoculars again. The ice shifted. The sound crossed the water. The tackle box was on the rail. The note was inside it. The cabin was warm behind us. The dock held our weight the way Oscar builds things, which is to say it held our weight and did not creak and would hold it for another 40 years. If this story found you today, subscribe to Family Secret Tales and share it with the person who was told they got the cabin out of pity by the person who wanted to sell it for $890,000. My father wrote me a note and put it in a tackle box and changed his will the same week and died 4 months later on a dock with wet lures and a warm thermos. He did not tell me any of it. He trusted me to find it. He was right about the lake. He was right about who would keep it. The tackle box is on the dock rail. The note is inside it. The loons are coming. Bertie is watching. And the water is mine.